Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
It's official. JJ Redick is the coach of the LA Lakers, but can an NBA team really hire a podcaster? Come on, I know. Also, the Bulls traded for Josh Giddey, and the Oilers will have to win a game on the Panthers' terms to force a Game 7. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It was about a month ago. We got the report. The LA Lakers are zeroing in. That was the word Shams Charania used on JJ Redick. It is finally happening. Finally, the word. It is JJ Redick on a 4-year deal with the LA Lakers. Andy Kamenetsky joins me now from Locked On Lakers. And Andy, let's start with the timing of this. We'll have plenty of time to talk about what this means. Why did this take so long?
The cynical answer is just the Lakers never make hiring a coach look easy. The actual answer may be the Lakers never make hiring a coach look easy. There are complicating factors at play. JJ Redick had been part of the ESPN booth calling the playoffs, including all the way up to the finals. I've not seen any confirmed reporting, and I even did a little bit of asking around today about whether or not whether the league or ESPN or both was really drawing a hard line about not wanting this to happen and putting pressure on the Lakers, or whether this was something JJ Redick was uncomfortable taking the job until he had finished with the playoffs. I said multiple times over on Locked On Lakers, I don't understand why he could not have done that job with ESPN and the NBA and been hired. I just simply don't get it.
Right.
If anything, I think it would
have been more compelling.
Well, I think it created much. If the league or ESPN or both was concerned about JJ Redick being an analyst and the Lakers coach overshadowing the finals, let me tell you something. What really overshadows the finals is the Lakers not having a coach and everybody wondering who their coach is going to be. Yeah. So if that was in any way the rationale, they should rethink the thought process.
Yeah, the Dan Hurley dalliance was overshadowing the finals as it was happening as well. So if that was part of the plan, it was not a very good plan. Let's talk about the impact you think this is going to have on the team. Another first-time head coach, which is something that you and I talked about when we had the Dan Hurley conversation. That seems like a hard sell to a lot of Lakers fans. Is the visibility of JJ Redick, his fame, his playing career, the fact that he was a recent player. Do you think make up for some of that, or how do you take into consideration that part of it? Because this is a team that fancies itself a contender every year.
Well, the general consensus I've gotten, fan feedback, whether on Twitter at Cam Brothers or in the comments section of the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel, I would say it is largely skepticism towards JJ Redick. I've seen some pockets of excitement, but I would be lying if I said it felt like there is a lot of overwhelming excitement, at least among the fan base I've been interacting with. As far as the way the Lakers treat this and that idea of championship or bust, they need to make sure that they are not putting that on JJ Redick or frankly, whoever they hired, because the Lakers roster as currently constructed, I think it's a good roster. I think it's a roster that can get into the playoffs. I think it's a roster that if a few things break right, maybe they can make a bit of a run, but they're not front runners. And for the time being, I'm not sure that they can construct this roster in a way that makes them front runners. And if that is the prism through which you judge JJ Redick as a coach, you're not setting him up to succeed, and you're likely to be back on this merry-go-round again. We've heard a lot, whether it was reports about Dan Hurley or even now with JJ Redick, the idea that they want to have this be a hire that lasts for a while, that JJ Redick can be a part of building something bigger. And that's great. And I hope they're sincere, but we have heard this before with them. And then it seems like ultimately impatience or some other issue surfaces. And the Lakers need to make sure that they are really putting JJ Redick in a position to succeed. And that's going to include accepting the idea that you're not going to win a championship every year.
Quickly here, Andy, one of the big differences last year to this year with the Boston Celtics was that bench of coaches. And Joe Mazzulla talked about how that difference made a difference to him. If you're going to set JJ Redick up for success, is there a name of someone who you think, lead assistant, someone like that, who can come in and whether it's, showing him the ropes or just sort of being there for moral support, that could make you potentially change the way that you view this or be the biggest boon to this team?
As far as names I've seen reported that I think could be realistic, I love the idea of Scott Brooks. He's been a very successful head coach for many years. He's gotten a team all the way to the NBA Finals. He is known for getting along well with players. He developed a very good relationship with Russell Westbrook, who is not the easiest guy in the world to coach. I would love if they managed to bring in Scott Brooks. I think a guy like Jared Dudley could be interesting just because he has that experience playing with LeBron and AD on that 2020 championship team. He's always been somebody very good as far as relationships. He could be a good liaison between the players and Redick. He's currently on Dallas's staff. I don't know if he necessarily wants to leave, but I understand the interest in bringing him back to the Lakers.
Stay up to date all year on the LA Lakers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lakers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Bulls decided Josh Giddey was worth the risk and gave up Alex Caruso for him. Before we get to that, the Patriots continue to retain talent for the future. Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. Terms applied. That's code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. The one player on this Patriots offense that might get drafted in fantasy football this year, he's getting a new deal. The Patriots and running back Ramondre Stevenson reached a 4-year extension worth $36 million, including $17 million guaranteed, according to reporting. First-year executive vice president Elliott Wolf has made it a point this offseason to retain players that the Patriots have drafted and developed and wants to make it a staple of his regime. The Patriots have also signed Kyle Duggar for 4 more years and offensive tackle Michael Onwenu, tight end Hunter Henry, and wideout Kendrick Bourne for 3 more years each. The Astros got back on the series winning train.
Look, man, I'm always positive, always Stros, and y'all know that. And the last couple of days, I've been kind of sounding the alarm of, is this team, who they are? Now, I'm not going to pretend that a series win where you should have swept the worst team in baseball is necessarily a victory, but these are games that you have to win. So if it's a series win, I'll take it. And Joe Espada said, we're just trying to win every series, and we'll get to it in the third segment. The Astros have a tall order. The Orioles just went into had a slugfest. Now the Yankees were without Aaron Judge, but it was an 8-7 game, and it was back and forth, home runs. They've got young hitters. They've got a very, they've got a closer that's got a lot of energy, a lot of movement on his pitches. So we've got our work set out for us, Eric.
And a WNBA rookie set a record, but it wasn't Caitlin Clark who did it. Angel Reese recorded her 7th straight double-double as the Chicago Sky beat the Dallas Wings 83-72. She passed Tina Charles and Cindy Brown for the most consecutive games with a double-double by a WNBA rookie. The Boston Celtics haven't even had the parade for their NBA championship, and already contenders are making moves. Alex Caruso is headed from Chicago to Oklahoma City for Josh Giddey in a player-for-player trade that could shake up the Western Conference. Rylan Stiles from Locked On Thunder joins me now. And Rylan, were you like me and thought, wait, there has to be more to this trade than just Giddey for Caruso? Because the Bulls had held on to Caruso so tightly that it felt like this was going to take a bigger offer than just a player whose value, at least at this moment after the postseason, was probably at its lowest in the last 18 months.
Yeah, it was really shocking, especially like just the way that the NBA is trending. Like you didn't even get a fake second round pick where it's like top 55 protected. It was just 1-for-1. That was pretty surprising that there was nothing else involved on either direction. Hey, this is our expiring guy. This is your expiring guy. We think that they fit better on the opposite team. Let's just get this done.
How much of this is driven by Luka Doncic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whenever you look at this entire roster, they outbeat their win total projection by 15 games for the second straight year. This time by 17 games, last year by 15 games. And so they've arrived at a point quicker than ever that you would expect them to be championship contenders. Then you go face Luka, and you have Lou Dort, who held Luka as best in check as you can. And then you neutered Kyrie's offensive impact in that game. But yet now you fill the really waning hole of like a guy who was targeted and a guy who was just left alone offensively and provided you nothing in that series. So I think that it was driven behind the idea that, okay, this team is ready to contend right now. They're ready to add a 30-year-old, former champion right now. Whereas before, the mindset had been patience, internal development. Let's see how good these guys actually are. And they've proven to this point that they're contenders already.
This is going to, I think, for some Thunder fans and for some, maybe nonpartisan NBA observers, dredge up some trade deadline acrimony where it's like, you couldn't have made a trade like this, whether it was this trade or something else, like 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think that whenever you look at the trade deadline, obviously there's going to be calls for them to do something better than Gordon Hayward. I think that this was the
Sam Presti said as much, by the way. He was like, that's on me. My bad.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like that was not, it did not materialize the way on paper. It looked like it could have helped the Thunder with the way that he can navigate some of those scoring lulls, but he didn't. And he was not very good offensively at all. And so you got derailed at the deadline. I think that this is sort of the Thunder having their cake and eating it too. Their whole hope at the deadline was, let's give this young core a playoff run, because to that point, like Josh Giddey had a phenomenal play-in game. We've seen a guy like Lou Dort who is way better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. Like there's just some guys who click in the biggest moments. Let's give them a full playoff run. And that Pelican series, Josh Giddey was phenomenal against New Orleans, again. And then he came back down to earth against Dallas. And while you can look at this being the Thunder traded Josh Giddey his lowest possible value and still recouped a fantastic player, I think that the selling point for trading Josh Giddey, no matter if you did this at the deadline or last offseason or this offseason, it was always going to be, yeah, he's not looking great here, but imagine what you could do with Josh Giddey in a better role, in an on-ball role, something that the Thunder just could not give him. So you were always going to have to sell a team on that. And they found the person to sell it to. It was the Chicago Bulls, and it worked out for OKC. So they got to have the patience at the deadline. They got to get a very clear picture where it ended with them benching Josh Giddey to snap his 218 game starting streak, so that they did not leave any stone unturned, and they got to make a well-informed decision without any regrets or any wondering what could have been.
Is this the opening salvo of the Oklahoma City Thunder offseason, or is this the big move?
I would be shocked if this is all we talk about, because what they've done is put themselves in position to still, even after this trade, have top 5 in the league cap space, have more picks than anyone in the world, and they still have 4 open roster spots. So 1-for-1 swap. So like they can still bring in 4 players, in the offseason. So I think that when you look at this total picture, it comes down to, can they convince someone to work with their parameters? And their parameters are, we can give you a lot of money for 2 years, but that contract's got to come off the books in order to have the Shea contract extension, the Dub contract extension, and the Chet contract extension kick in. So if you want to take the money for the next 2 years, be our guest. It's going to come down to, does someone want to do that?
Stay up to date on the Oklahoma City Thunder by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Thunder on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Oilers will have to win a game on the Panthers' terms to make it a Game 7. The Edmonton Oilers are alive in the Stanley Cup, but only by just a game. As Locked On Oilers host Nick Zerreris says, the Oilers may have to win a game on the Panthers' terms to force a Game 7.
In these playoffs, when they've had hard times, it's because the other team has gotten going in transition. Or in the case of the 2-1 Rangers win and the 2-1 Boston win, they lost the rock fight. We talked about a lot that Florida likes low event hockey. They don't want a lot of scoring chances, kind of what Game 2 was, where there just wasn't a lot of room. It could have gone either way. That's Florida's ideal game state, because they feel the way they play, the stars they have, and the goaltending they have, if we reduce the game to a coin flip, we think our guys are more often than not going to beat your guys in those coin flip instances. We're talking about a handful of plays swinging games. And against 30 of the 32 teams in the league, Florida's got the stars to overwhelm them more often than not. You get Barkov going, you get Tkachuk going, you get Reinhart going, you get Verhaeghe going, you get Sam Bennett going. Most teams, that's enough. Edmonton is one of the handful of teams that has a real argument to say our stars are just as good, if not better than yours. And then it comes down to our depth. Because like we talked about in the first segment, Edmonton's and Florida's stars are, when they've been head-to-head, it's 1-1. When it's Barkov against McDavid at 5-on-5. When they're away, that's when McDavid's been able to open things up and put some pucks in the net. But before we move on, one last thought on this idea. It is going to be really difficult to get Florida to open up, to concede defensively. But when Edmonton's won in this series, it's because they've been able to get the game going up and down. Florida is going to do everything they can to let the air out of the balloon, deflate this game, and make it low event, make it low energy, take the crowd out of it, make the game come down to Stuart Skinner versus Bob, Barkov versus McDavid, Draisaitl versus Tkachuk. Slow it down and force somebody to make a play outside of structure, make a special play. And that's a calculated risk against Edmonton, who has the best player in the world, who is capable of making something special happen every single time he touches the puck. But you saw the first 3 games of this series. There was not a lot of room out there. Edmonton, if they're going to win, probably needs to win a squeaker. And when I say win, I mean the series. They're probably going to need a 2-1 or a 3-2, just because of the way these series have gone for Florida. I don't think that type of game benefits Edmonton in the slightest, but from a theory perspective of how Florida's series have played out and what Florida's strengths are, Edmonton probably needs to win a rock fight, and that's either going to be Game 6 or, God willing, Game 7, if they're going to be able to make it happen.
And finally, after Lily King won the silver medal in the women's 200-meter breaststroke at Lucas Oil Stadium, she got more hardware. King's boyfriend, James Wells, proposed to her as she made her way out of the pool into the warm-down area. When the 27-year-old accepted her medal for her second-place finish later in the evening, she enthusiastically pointed to her left hand in her engagement ring before addressing the news during her poolside interview. "News travels fast, but I'm engaged," King said. She flashed her ring again. Silver's pretty cool, but diamond, that's the thing. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, is there another big domino in the NBA to fall already this offseason? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.